Alright guys, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Ooh, she slammed, dude. Guys, this is freaking awesome. So as you can see, the PTGT is already currently taken apart. Reason for that is I was waiting for these to come in the mail. I knew they'd be here by the end of today, so I figured while I was waiting, I would go ahead and start taking the car apart. So they just came, and I want to film this segment of the video now. So after this, we're gonna skip back in time, kind of, and yeah, you get what I'm saying. But I want to take a moment to tell the story, and I want to give a huge shout out to Jamie Williams of Oregon for sending these out. He is an awesome, faithful subscriber of channel C.G.E. A little while ago, I mentioned in a video about how I was hearing a little bit of a clunking noise in the front end of the PTGT. I thought it could be a swaybar issue, but I wasn't 100% sure. Wasn't too worried about it. I was going to look into it in the future. Him and I started talking down in the comments about it. He was saying how it could be my struts, and he offered to send me out a set of struts and these teen lowering springs that were off of his PTGT. I'll show you some pictures of his. He ended up putting coilovers on his, but it is sweet. It is built. And it's really cool because it's not too often you see somebody with an automatic PTGT that goes all out like that. That thing has got to be a beast. But anyways, originally he used to run these teen lowering springs on his car, and I'll show the picture of when the car actually had the teen lowering springs on it. He used to run these on his, and these are off of his car, as well as the struts. So even though I'm not completely sure that my struts are my issue, they've definitely seen better days, and they could very well be the source of my clunking sounds. And I mean, how could I turn down lowering springs? So again, a huge shout out for Jamie. You are the man. This would not be happening without you. I did not have any plans to do anything to the suspension of the PTGT. A lot of people want to see me lower this car, and Jamie made that possible. Anyways guys, I guess that's everything I have to say. Let's go ahead and skip back to the beginning of the day when we started this project. Let's get these things installed and see how they look. Alright guys, today is a super special day. So special that I had to crack open a little green label Bartle Skeet. Always gotta crack one open on a special occasion. I also stopped into AutoZone this morning and picked up the spring compressor. There she is. This is gonna work awesome. That's the only real special tool we are going to need. Everything else I've taken apart before, so this should be interesting. We're gonna take the bolts out up top. There's 3 in the top of each, and then we need to remove these 2 bolts. One of them is my camber bolt, and get these 2 little lines out of the way, and then we can just pull it out. First thing I gotta do is move this whole thing. I guess this has something to do with the cruise control. Something, I'm not sure what all this is. Pull them and just kind of push it out of the way so we can get access to the 3 bolts on this side. Alright, and here it is, the whole strut assembly, ready to have the spring taken out of it. Just one problem though. So over here looking at the tool I borrowed from AutoZone, I suddenly realized that this is a Coil spring compressor, which is actually not what you need for one of them. You need what's called a strut spring compressor. In case anybody doesn't know about this, basically what this is, it hooks up at the top of the spring, and you put this thing through the bottom of the spring, and then you tighten down on that with a wrench to compress the spring and remove it. Obviously that's not going to work here because there's a strut in the middle of that spring. Therefore you can't get one like this in the middle of it to compress the spring. So that's not gonna work. So it looks like I'm not gonna be able to use that. I'm just gonna have to return it, and I know some place where I can get a strut spring compressor. A little bit of a setback, I guess.
1 hour later.
I ended up just going for it and buying this one. This is Evercraft, which is Napa's tool brand. So that works perfect, and now we have it for any future projects, and we can continue to get some work done on this thing. But first, before we continue, I'm going to remove the strut assembly and everything on this side. Since you already saw me do it on the other side, I'm just gonna go ahead and skip past this side. And there we go. That time around, I was kind of aware of what I was getting into since I just did it on the other side. It didn't even take me 30 minutes. My only advice as of now is to just be careful, because you got like this speed sensor here, you got a brake line here, you got your grease fitting on your tie rod end, or at least in some cases you have that. You got the CV axle boot, just a lot of stuff you don't want to damage when you're pulling that whole assembly out of here and getting it off to the side, so just, you know, watch yourself. But anyways, now that we got those out of the way, we can actually use our new tool. But for those of you who have never used one of these before, don't know what it does, basically, you get the idea. Hooks on the spring here, one on each side, and slowly tighten them down. That's how you compress the spring. Fixing to get dark on me at any moment now. I'm going to try to pick up the pace here. I'm going to have to reuse the bump stop on the other front strut. This one he already has on here and it's already cut. Most of the time when you put lowering springs on something like this, they'll cut like one rung off of the bump stop. That one's already cut and on here, so I'm just going to go ahead and reuse that. Also, we are going to be reusing the top hat, or whatever they're called, so I cleaned it up really quick. Actually, this part is visible from inside the engine bay, so that I really wanted to clean up. We're going to go ahead and put this thing together. As you can kind of see, the spring fits in there. Throw this on top, and that's the way it's going to fit up. But of course, first we have to compress the spring. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we can finally put this all back together and throw it in the car. Alright guys, I'm running out of daylight really fast. I was having some frustrations with getting this strut together. Even when I would use the impact to try to tighten the nut up top here, the whole strut was just spinning. I was having that issue obviously taking the old one off, but I was able to get it off with the impact, but I was unable to get it tight with the impact. Could not figure out what to do, so what I ended up finally doing was, with the spring compressed, and it was compressed quite a bit, I was able to reach my vice grips between this thing here and the top hat, or whatever they call it. Basically between these two while the spring was compressed. So the spring was compressed down like this was down like this. Tightened them down on the strut. I hit it with the impact and that tightened it up with no issue. Now most people will tell you never to use vice grips on the strut on this right here because that'll mess up the seal. But I mean, it's right up here at the top, and plus I inspected it and I didn't see any marks up in there or anything that the vice grips did to it. So I think it's okay. So I think that trick worked okay. I don't recommend if you're trying this at home that you do that. I think they make special tools that'll fit on there and then you can reach down in and tighten the nut. Don't be like me, do your research if you're doing this yourself and make sure you got that all figured out ahead of time. But I did have an issue with it. That being said, I'm gonna put this back in the car, and then tomorrow morning we'll do the rear since that's really easy and it's dark out. So let's go ahead and throw this thing in the car.
Day 2.
Alright guys, back out here the next morning and it is absolutely beautiful out. I'm actually glad that I waited. But I've gotten to this point where I'm getting ready to bolt the hat on, whatever you call this, the top thing with the bearing in it. But I wanted to show you guys my trick, if you will. I'm sure that it is not the proper way to do this, I guarantee that. But what I was talking about with the vice grips, basically, I put them in between these two things at the very top and lock them shut. And then we put the nut on and use the grips to kind of hold it as I use the impact to put it on. Alright, Now I'm just gonna go ahead and throw the strut in this side, then we can torque it all down. Finally, move on to the rear. And there we go. All right, guys, it looks like I can finally say the front is done. We got everything torqued down. We are good to go, so we can go ahead and move on to the rear. The only thing about doing this is basically, as far as I know, all we need to do is unbolt this rear end piece from the hub here so that we can kind of step on it, bring it down enough that we can pull the spring out. Well, I forgot to press record, but just pulled the bottom bolt out of the strut, and it was a serious pain in the butt to take off. I probably should have thought to spray things down with some PB Blaster ahead of time. Finally got it loose, and it looks like that's all we need to do to get the spring out. All right, well, I definitely overcomplicated that. That was no big deal at all. Once the strut was unbolted, you can push down enough to get that spring out, no problem, since there isn't like serious tension on it or anything. So I guess I can finish unbolting the strut really quick, then we can put the new stuff in. And I forgot to press record again, but I just put the spring in, which took me about all of 10 seconds. Actually, now I'm gonna use a jack to help, which I probably should have used when we were taking it apart. All right, there we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and blast through this side really quick. Then we can do what we've all been waiting for. Is I can get the wheels back on, we can put this thing on the ground and see what it looks like lowered.
Few inches later.
All right, guys, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Ooh, she slammed, dude. Alright guys, well, it's been a solid couple days since the last clips that you saw. I was having a lot of tire rubbing issues. I decided to just stop filming, kind of figure things out in my own time because it was kind of getting boring, repetitive, and let's face it, we all just want to see this thing lowered at this point. You guys get the idea. If anybody's here to install springs and struts, you get a basic idea. The issues that I was having are not a big deal, and they're not an issue that anybody else should have anyways, so got everything ironed out. Car still needs to be aligned and all that stuff, and I have little things to button up. I gotta show you guys. I can't wait any longer. This is a huge moment, guys. So let's cue the glamour shots and see how this thing looks. And of course we finish right as it begins to snow. I'm sure some people are not gonna like it. Some people are gonna hate on the stance. The fact that I just lowered this car. I know a lot of people are gonna love it too, but either way, I personally, I haven't had really a chance to drive this car around a lot. I have driven it up and down the road a couple times, primarily just listening for any tire rubbing issues, but honestly, now that the car is lowered, I freaking love the way it looks. I didn't think it would make that big of a difference, and I couldn't really picture it being worth it in my mind. But now that it is lowered and you see it, I don't know how well the glamour shots are going to do it justice, but seeing it in person, just that subtle difference, a little bit lower, the wheels and the 215/60s, they just really fill in the wheel arches and make this car look, I guess, cleaner. It's all together. I don't really know how to describe it, but I love the way that it looks lowered. Come on, it's not like we slammed the car. Like I said before, I think I said it before, it's an inch lower in the front and 2 in the rear. It's also a stiffer spring rate, so the car is going to handle a lot better on the curvy roads, which I really can't wait to get everything buttoned together, get this car aligned, and take it on some back roads, and really test out the difference with the stiffer spring rate and just test out the whole thing. Hey, there's Focus RS. But now the car's put back together, I'm very glad that I did it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below if you like the way it looks. We're supposed to get a snowstorm over this weekend, so he's probably gonna sit in the shop for a couple days and we're gonna be doing some other stuff. When the snow finally clears up and we get this thing on the road and get it aligned and everything, I will definitely be making more videos on it. I'm gonna make a whole video probably dedicated to like my first impressions of driving / owning a lowered car for the first time. That should be an interesting one. And I'm gonna make a bunch of different videos now that the car is lowered about it. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. This is, I mean, like I said, I did not expect to do this. But now that I did it, I'm glad I did. And again, a special, very special thanks to Jamie Williams for sending me out these awesome springs. It means the world to me, and it's just, it's really cool. It's really cool. You guys are awesome. Thank you to every single one of you guys that comes and watches the videos. Your support is what keeps me going. But anyways, guys, I guess that's all I have to say for this one. Again, let me know down in the comments what you think of the PTGT lowered. If you do like it, be sure and smash that thumbs up button, because I am going to be making some more videos on the car now that it's lowered, talking about it, and we'll get some more glamour shots in when it's not snowing, and you know, just a lot more cool stuff coming very soon. Anyways, guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this channel C.G.E video. You guys rock. Thanks again for your continued support. God bless you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.